Good evening, and thank you all for coming out on this cold, wintry night. Um, a life, it means artificial life, and I actually don't think our research is artificial life, but I could imagine how some people might think it is. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our research, and then I'm going to also highlight some really exciting findings that have happened in the past year and, in fact, the past month in science that bring up some really fascinating ethical issues that I will then hand off to Dr. Novak to discuss. This is called CRISPR Cas9 technology, or gene editing. Okay, so what does this mean? So this system consists of two molecules. One is Cas9, which is an enzyme, and one is the guide RNA, which is a pre-designed ribonucleic acid that you can basically insert into genes. Okay, so what we can do now that we could never do before is we can edit your genes. So if you've got a disease, and we can identify it in the embryo, we can edit out that disease. That's really cool. But another fantastic ethical issue, because where does it stop? Do we make superhumans and edit out everything? So the good news is that it's a great tool for treating a whole range of diseases, anything with a genetic component, including cancer, hepatitis, or even high cholesterol. Many of the proposed applications involve editing genomes of non-reproductive cells. So these are somatic cells. But there is a lot of interest in editing out germline reproductive cells. And that's where the ethical debate is. So most people are fine with editing out genes that are problematic after you've been born. But if you edit them in the germline, this will be passed on from generation to generation, and that's where there are some ethical concerns.
One of the things in the Jewish, the tradition, the folklore, there are artificial things like golems. So how have we actually dealt with those? Debra.
So there is a long tradition of speaking of golems, though I'd say that in recent times it's kind of expanded well beyond their narrow origins. One can go back to Talmud and find three words: Rava Baragavra. Rava made a man, created a man in an unnatural, in a supernatural way, as it were. And is this creature considered human? The question of looking at life and creativity in ways that sound science fiction-y is old, actually, and we have it within our tradition. So the questions around it on that big picture of artificial life, or life conceived outside of natural reproductive modes, raises or gets to the question of what creates life, what defines humanity. Those are those underlying questions that keep playing out through time, but they tend to be on that question of the big picture. If one creates a whole creature, which seems quite distinct from a lot of the work that's being done now, can one create parts for therapeutic purposes, as that were?
I mean, let's talk about Rava creating an artificial human being. First of all, it is within the realm of Agodot. It is not in the realm of the law. It is in the realm of speculation, imagination, which is very, very important. However, we have a principle, ein lemedin min ha'agadot. We do not derive immediate normative principle, what we should do, what we should not do, from these speculations. These speculations can inform our discussions. So let me give an example of that. Somebody artificially creates something that looks and acts like a human being. What is the status of that person? Let me give you an analogy. According to the halacha, even though it's violated by certain people on the right, unfortunately, is that if a person is noheg b'darchei Yisrael, if a person is acting like a Jew, and comes into your synagogue and opens up the synagogue and knows and to act like a Jew, you are to accept that person as a Jew without questions asked. However, so just by analogy, if something appears and looks and acts like a human being, we would certainly treat that person, we would certainly say that that person's life was not to be violated and whatever. However, if that person, let's say, wanted to get married, then there would be a question of, is this person the product? Because human beings who can marry have a father and a mother. Is this person really in that type of a situation? So, I mean, that becomes the thing. But I think that the real ethical issue is if we are doing a lot of these things that Molly so loved in such a clear and for a layperson like myself to understand, then the question is, what is the motivation? Why is this being done? Science does not give us moral norms, but there are moral norms that pertain to the external, to the world, to the physical world. And that is where science is important. Science is important so that we know how to apply these norms intelligently rather than unintelligently.